Hey everybody, welcome to BrickVault. Today is another LEGO Top 10 MOCs of the Week episode where I show you guys the coolest custom creations I happen to see people building in LEGO throughout this last week. In the description below, I've got links to everybody I talk about, plus a whole heck of a lot more. There are definitely more than just 10 cool custom builds people are making all around the world, so I highly recommend, if you've got extra time, to check out these people's Flickr pages. Before I jump into the very first build, the custom creation that went up in our web store is the Fortnite Battle Bus, built by my brother Charlie. The major design feature for this model is the fact that it can be hung from the ceiling. There is a Technic lift arm structure that runs through the entire center of this model, which makes it extremely easy to hang from any type of string and or metal cord. It's a fun video, lots of nice details to appreciate, and if you enjoy our content, you can always like or subscribe or check us out at our web store. Any and all support is always greatly appreciated. Let's jump into the very first build now from Joseph Z. This is the Siege of Kastermore. This build has got a bit of everything that I like in a LEGO MOC. The structure design is quite nice. I like the use of a lot of tile pieces and outward showing studs. It's a little bit of a different style, showing loose rock and or old stonework. There's a bit of nature building as well, with some exposed stone coming up from the grass, trees, and even blooming lilies in the corner. Plus, of course, you've got a battle scene on top of that, which has got a lot of action. There's definitely a lot of things happening. There's that wonderful explosion frozen in time. The wall seems to be coming down in one corner. I think it gives everybody a little bit of something that they might want from a LEGO build. And then from the designer Simon Hundsbichler, we have the Two Towers. If you're familiar with the architecture line sets, where you have a few of the main buildings from a city to line a small strip, this is built in a very similar fashion, but with some very obvious and much nicer details to outline the entire creation. For starters, the stand is an open book. I very much appreciate the little bend in that spine. Specifically though, there are just all kinds of wonderful micro details. I especially like the first one here. That tiny detail for stairs that lead up to the entrance of Edoras is actually just a 1x2 brick, but in order for it to match up smoothly there, you know that it's kind of resting, and the top piece touching it probably is some sort of panel on its side, if I had to take a guess. And the small stream and or gutter running out of Helm's Deep is wonderfully inlaid with the tan bricks on the sides. I like how it cuts down through the pages there. It's just a really clever bit of building, but frankly, it is just an awesome looking display piece that I think anybody would definitely appreciate having if they're at all fans of the Lord of the Rings series. And now we're moving on to a build that is posted on Brothers Brick. It's a collaborative effort from Tim Goddard, Mansour Soliman, and Intert, all three of which are designers that have been featured individually in the past, and together they have created a micro or midi scale MOC of Tilos Prime. From the prequel trilogy, we saw tiny snippets of this area. It was really fleshed out a lot better in the Clone Wars, and there are awesome design features for all of these models. I like that they upscaled it a little bit from what I would consider really mini scale, but it's definitely small enough for a builder or a handful of builders to really flesh out a large area and add a ton of wonderful details. The bright colors really pop quite well for these teal or trans blue trees, and all of the hot pink highlights. And frankly, I wish there was more pictures. I checked out their Flickrs individually. I only found these two shots, but we have some awesome details and really just a wonderfully fleshed out large-scale battle scene. Now we're looking at a build from Librarian Bot, a designer that I only discovered this week, and the design here is called Swelter, and at first I thought it was sort of a mask-themed car. Kind of an interesting build, a little bit strange here and there, but definitely a fun-looking, sort of sporty-looking vehicle. But then when you switch to this, you'll see why I thought it deserved a spot on the top 10. Librarian Bot does some amazing transformative vehicles. This one here is just my personal favorite that I found from a recent series of photos that he uploaded. And I think this build in particular really rides that line between good-looking vehicle and good-looking robot. There's also a lot of energy, a lot of posability that really makes this animal type creature feel very alive, which makes me feel like the transformation function doesn't really detract at all from the actual aesthetic aesthetic appeal of this model. Now we're jumping down to a Technic design. The name is in Vietnamese. I believe it's pronounced Chiếc Cúp, which is just one cup, translates to one cup. And the designer is Khang H. In the description, they say that this was a difficult bit of design work, but they're proud of the way that it finally turned out. And I have to agree. This isn't a type of scooter or motorcycle that people fantasize about having or really consider to be some amazing bit of machinery, but instead it's the very common vehicle that a lot of people in Vietnam generally drive around, and the angles here look great. It seems to be a pretty even combination of Technic and System Brick pieces. At first I thought it was mostly Technic, but now that I'm taking closer looks at this model, it feels like it's almost 50-50. The color combination is nice. It looks very realistic. I also appreciate the rack on the back, and the design features are good enough here for me to say that this is definitely an older Honda. Certainly a model that people drive around nowadays, but not something that you could get brand new. And it's a model of scooter that I think is slowly but surely dying out, though you can still find plenty of these all over the place. Great build details all around. And now we are looking at a model. This is just so fun with the colors and the creativity. It is called Exodus version 2.0 from Frank Fox. I honestly can't think of a better way to get the Exodus scene so well captured in a small sliver of Lego bricks. The idea to just completely bend the water with those barrel trans pieces and just 1x2 plates is incredibly smart. Not only does it save space, but it also makes sense in the thin context that we have for this display piece, and it also just looks amazing. The waves have a way of articulating at a really extreme degree, and that's because the plates at any point never actually intersect with another plate, so there's no hard corners hitting each other. If they were, they wouldn't be able to bend at such dramatic, smooth angles. And you can see some of the Pharaoh's men that are stuck inside the waves. You can see the Pharaoh and the army chasing everyone that's trying to escape, and you have what looks basically like the Garden of Eden on the other side, and the Red Sea is just flaring up pretty violently in the middle. And it just rides that nice line between nothing too crazy or weird or headachy, yet I couldn't really imagine this build being put together in a way with details that could really enhance the scene that we already have. It's just captured completely. Now we're jumping into the world of Technic / Bionicle figures. This is not died out, even though the Bionicle pieces haven't really been getting produced for quite a long time. This here is called Hercules, and it's from the designer Buffoon. It's a model that has a lot of energy. The color highlights are simple, yet very, very effective. You got the mostly black and shiny body that kind of reminds me of an H.R. Geiger piece of work, or a Xenomorph, which is also H.R. Geiger. But then you've got just a bit of the very, very intense blue highlight armors on the front, a red eye, and just a tiny bit of yellow highlighting on top of that. The wings are a great, great touch. This is called Cygnus Mark I by Ted Andes. Monochrome is a really fun build style, but here this Lego build in particular captures a lot of wonderful shapes. It forces you to just focus on the technical builds, and this thing looks amazing from both the front and back. You can actually really tell a big difference between the front, which is supposed to be focused on the nice, smooth, angular areas. You have an idea of where that cockpit might be. Certainly the windscreen, because the windscreen is done in all white. And then when you jump to the back, there is all kinds of technical and thruster details, which is something that you would probably expect, or you usually expect when you see some sci-fi spaceship flying through the air. There's a nice combination of clipped pieces and small technical bits combined with larger, round, smooth areas. And it's a monochrome design that I'm happy to see coming down the line. Anyways, let's change things up completely. We are now looking at Queer Lodgings from the designer Mountain Hobbit. It's a collaborative build between this designer and Cold Blood, and it was displayed at Bricks Cascade maybe 6 weeks ago or maybe longer. It's just a really fun, complete nature build. I enjoy that there's no border to the beginning or end of this display piece. You can see that all the grass and dirt and rocks have been built with their studs on their sides that round everything out and make this whole thing feel a lot more self-contained. The triangular windows are a wonderful touch, and also the grass roof, the whatever the roof is made out of feels very thick and wooded and maybe mossed over. You can see that the studs have been built on their sides in order to finish out the details for the roof as well, which is great. We have some nice thick builds for trees. Everything here just feels very, very complete. And I'd also say the balance between heavy details and open space is struck quite well. Sometimes nature builds are a combination of getting a ton of weird, fun, interesting techniques thrown in and crammed into as small a space as possible because the ideas are somewhat endless when it comes to nature designs here, but this feels open, but it also feels like there's something to find every little area that you look at, but nothing too cluttered. And let's finish off the final design of the week with just bricking. That's the designer, and we now have a very large clone turbo tank. I know this is like the #1 requested build from you guys. We do not yet have a design for it, so let me just show you a cool digital build that somebody did that I know a lot of you guys will definitely like to take closer looks at. The details here are wonderful. The proportions and shaping of the model seem to work quite well. This is a digital model. I don't think this thing exists in real life, though I have seen similar sized builds of the clone turbo tank in the past. We have an interesting bit of design work that makes up those wheels. I like the offset cheese wedge pieces on the outer side of the wheels there, and it would be cool to see if this thing could ever get built, this particular model could ever get built IRL. According to the description, it's like 15,000 pieces, which does not surprise me at all, but who knows, perhaps someday we'll have something like this in the real physical world to play around with. Anyways, that is going to be it for this Top 10 Mocks of the Week episode, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, if you enjoy our content, you can always like or subscribe. Check out those links in the description below. There are so many more than just 10 cool designs this week. Anyways, thanks for sticking around, if you have stuck around until the very end of the video, and we'll see you next time at BrickVault.